Do you want to create something beautiful, professional, and perfect for your product showcase? Then this tutorial is for you. Hi, my name is Monica from Academic Phoenix Plus. And in this video series, we're going to walk step by step through modeling, texturing, and rendering skincare products, the kind of high-end visuals you see in commercials and product shots. This is a flexible template you can adapt for any brand, any product. Whether you're creating for a client, building your portfolio, or just leveling up your 3D skills, you'll learn the full pipeline from start to finish. If you're new to this channel, I post tutorials on a weekly basis. Software includes Maya, ZBrush, Substance Painter, and more. If that is your sort of thing, please consider subscribing. Bring out your creativity, open up that software, and let's go ahead and get started in creating this product showcase to make your portfolio even better. And by the way, if you want to follow along, you can go to Academic Phoenix Plus and download this product designs right now. Let's get started. Here's all-powerful Maya, and let's go ahead and start off with creating the plane, which is going to be our floor. Let's go to Inputs and change the subdivision axes, the width and height to 1, because we don't need that much information. Make sure you're in object mode. I'm also going to go ahead and duplicate this and rotate on the X 90 degrees and push it back. This is going to be my wall. It's very important to have the basics. Next, let's create a camera. By using this camera, I'm going to rename it, called a render cam, and I'm going to be using this to create my renders. Now, I want to be able to see it through it, so let's go to Panels Perspective, Render Cam, and you can see now that we're looking through a camera. And now let's turn on the resolution gate. I'm going to increase the scale of my wall and floor because I need to make sure that my products are going to fit. Next, let's go to the render settings, and we are going to change the width height of this render so it can be nice and professional. This is going to be more like an ad. So you can see that maintain width height ratio is off, and I'm going to type in 1090 by 1230. That's going to be my final render, and you can see the scale here. However, I do want to make it a little bit smaller when it comes to rendering because this is pretty high res. So let's go ahead and change the height to 720 and leave it as this. The ratio is still the same. The render will be faster. We'll crank up the settings when we're ready to render. I created a AI physical sky, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate it so that I can see some shadows, and you can see now that I can have a wall and a floor, and the render is working. Next, we're going to create our base. Let's go ahead and go to perspective and move that cylinder so we can see what we're going to be working with. I can double click, do Control B for bevels, and then go ahead and change the segments to 2 and the fraction 2.1. Test the fraction to make sure everything turns out the way it looks good. So in this case, 0.5 and 2 segments worked out really well. Next, I'm going to go to faces, select the faces, then deselect the top one, which selects the bottom faces so I can delete them because I don't need them. I don't need to render anything that is not important. Let's go ahead and scale a little bit. Shift right click, insert edge loop tools, and that's going to help maintain the shape of that cylinder. Now I'm going to go to 2 panels. There's a 2-panel view, and under panels perspective, I can go ahead and place my object in the scene so I can see what the render is going to look like. Through the render cam, I can rotate it if I need to and start placing my products. Let's go ahead and build some more bases. So here is my other base. I'm going to make sure it's a cube. So at the top left, create a cube, lift it up, scale it. And same story with this one. I want to make sure I delete the things that I don't need, such as the bottom face. So let's go to faces, right click face, select that face, and then let's go ahead and bevel. Control B, increase the segments to 2, reduce the fraction. I'm going to type them in because it's a little bit more accurate. So 0.05 seems like a good value. And then go ahead and bring it down. Make sure you're in object mode. All right, now that it's in object mode, I can place it. I can either move it up and down, or I can go ahead and scale it. So I'm going to go ahead and wiggle things around until I'm happy with the placement. Scale it up, then eventually rotate it so that it looks really nice in the render. Now, right now, I'm just creating the base of the objects. Next, I'll be creating another base, and then I'll be eventually start creating the actual products themselves. Slightly rotating it and making sure everything is placed in a good space. Control D to duplicate it. Go ahead and remove that rotate Y, and then in this one, I'm going to make it more of a rectangle. So grab those vertices, press W for move, and create more of a rectangle cube. And then move it around until you're happy with the location. Again, that could mean scaling. That could also mean rotating it. So the idea is that it's going to create this dynamic looking product design base. It's going to be a fun project because I'm going to show you how to model it. I'm also going to show you how to UV map it, then texture it. We're going to be using Photoshop to texture this one, which is going to be interesting. I rarely use Photoshop. I usually use Substance Painter, but I felt like in this case, it's actually pretty, oh my goodness, where did it go? Okay, my screen just went dark. That was weird. I'm imagining that the products are there, and this is what the render looks like so far, which is looking pretty nice. Press number 3 to make sure it looks good in Smooth Preview. And next we are going to be saving this. And I have not created a project yet, which is the first thing that we got to do. So I have a folder dedicated to 3D projects. That's where I'm going to place the location. I'm going to call this product design and then just click accept. So when I save, it's going to automatically save it into the product design scene. So I'm going to call this product design version 1, start models, and Maya knows exactly where to find the products, where to find the source images, all of that. Next, I'm going to grab the plane, and on the bottom right, there is a display. So create the new layers. And I'm going to call this the background layer because I want to make sure that I cannot select the plane. Now you still can select it in the outliner, but you can't select it in the perspective view. So let's go ahead and double click the floor and the wall and rename them so that everything is labeled correctly. This one is going to be the cylinder base. You want to make sure everything is labeled so that it's easy to select if we are trying to find things. This is going to be a cube base. Very creative titles, nothing too, nothing too crazy. Rectangle base. So easy peasy. If I give this file to anybody, they're going to know exactly what that outliner looks like. They're going to understand that the BG layer is the background layer. Everyone's going to understand what's going on. Next, let's go ahead and move the camera so that the product is going to look as best as possible. You can see that I can't grab my floor or my wall, but I'm going to select the wall from the outliner and move it. So again, I can't grab it in the perspective view, but I can definitely grab it in the outliner. So something to keep in mind. All right, that's looking pretty nice in the render. I think it's a good place to move forward. The next part is going to be to actually create the product themselves. So let's go ahead and create a cylinder. Let's go to the caps and change the cap subdivision to 0. Go ahead and scale it. Let's grab the top face and we're going to extrude slightly outward and then slightly inward. Extrude again, lift just a little bit, and then extrude, Control E, outward just a little bit. Once again, extrude, but this time let's lift up so that now we have a little indentation, which is great. Next, we're going to extrude again and scale inward. And to give it another indentation, we're going to go ahead and extrude inward slightly. Then we're going to extrude and then scale slightly. So hit that R and then extrude again, Control E, and then lift. Extrude just a little bit more and then scale it in. And now we have a product. You can see that the base is curving in. So that means that we need to insert some edge loops. So shift right click, edge loops, create those edges, and that's going to help preserve that edge flow at the bottom. Looks very nice. I kind of want to make it look like moisturizer. I do want to make sure I preserve that edge a little bit at the top. So let's go ahead and bevel, reduce that segment a little bit. And there you go. That's how we get the nice, we still get an edge, and that's really important. Let's insert some edges again because I do want that indentation to be very obvious. So now I went ahead and do that, and you can see that that looks like product for like skincare. So then we're going to move that pivot down by clicking on the letter D, move it down. That's going to help me snap it to the base really quickly and then place it into the base. So you're going to press F to focus so you can get close to the product and then go ahead and move it around. I felt like the bottom edge could use a little bit more curvature. So in this case, I am going to try to double click, and you can see that I can't. And the reason why, it's because of n-gons, a giant n-gons. And so I'm going to go ahead and fix my n-gons here. So go ahead and grab the multi-cut tool. And what you're going to do is click on each vertex across the way and then press enter. Now you got to make sure you select that vertex because it will create a vertex in the center of your polygon like that. So don't do that. Try to avoid that because then you're going to get more n-gons. Go ahead and click, press enter, click, press enter, and then do one across. You can see that you can always do Control Z if you made an error, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm trying to avoid triangles. I'm trying to avoid n-gons. I'm trying to get as many quads as I can. Right, so just kind of count your values, see where is the best place to put your quads, and then continue building from there. Press enter when you're done. One more in the center here, and that will give me quads and no n-gons at the top. There you go. So the nice thing about this is that it's a nice quad. All right, now the bottom. The bottom is a little hard to grab, right? So it also has an n-gon in the center. So I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to grab that face. I'm going to extrude a little bit. And it looks like I accidentally grabbed the face, right? Because it was not extruding properly. So instead I undid, extrude again. This time it's extruding correctly, which means that it's in one plane, not in like X and Y. And then I deleted because I don't actually need that n-gon. And then I went ahead and grabbed that external edge so that I can give it a little bit of that curvature at the bottom. So I don't want it to be sharp. I want it to have a tiny little bit of a curvature to make it feel more organic. All right, and there we go. Now you can see that it rendered in the perspective view, but I want it to render in the render cam. So there's a pull down menu on the top left. You can choose render cam, and then when you render, it will render in that correct camera. I do feel like this needs to be a little larger, so I grabbed the scale. I went ahead and go back to my two views and just scaled up those top vertices so that I can get a nicer product. All right, so I know when I rendered, I saw how small my product is. My product design needs to be the main focus of this. So I'm going to be moving that camera again to make sure everything's looking good. Now I'm going to have other products in here, but I just want to make sure it's rendering correctly. Another thing you can explore is select the camera and take a look at the focal length. The default camera is a 35mm, which means that it will have the least deformation, but play around with the focal length. Maybe you want a smaller focal length or a larger focal length. By doing that, it will change the perspective of the camera and make it more interesting to look at. If you do a smaller value, it will make everything look like an ant view. But if you use a larger value, it will actually make it look flatter. So explore those because it's really important to play around with that. Let's go ahead and create a new cylinder. We're going to create another product design. And very similar to this one, we're going to focus on it and we're going to reduce the cap to 0 so it's easier for me to select. Then I am going to scale it down a little bit because this is going to be the cap. I'm going to show you a different method of creating the cap. However, this one's going to transition from a circle to a flat plane, and I wanted to demonstrate to you how much fun this could be. So let's go ahead and change the subdivision axis to 16, grab the top face, and then we're going to extrude and lift. So I'm about to estimate where exactly this is, all the way to the top. Delete that top face and select those edges. And what I'm going to do is deselect the ones that are going to intersect and then just go ahead and scale it. This will change the object from a cylinder to a flat surface seamlessly. So sometimes working with less geometry is the better way to go. Then after selecting all those edges, we are going to extrude scale a little bit to kind of give you a little indentation. Lift it up just a tiny bit and then extrude again. Don't forget to press W so that you can get it really nice. And then go ahead and squeeze it flat by scaling it flat. That's going to give us a flat edge. Eventually, I will merge those vertices together, but right now I'm just exploring what it's going to look like. Next, I'm going to create a edge right there, right next to the bottom edge. Double click on those faces and then extrude inward. I'm going to scale inward. And this is going to create a cap. So there's two ways you guys can do a cap. You can do it this method, which is create those edges and then extrude, or you guys can go ahead and extrude inward, scale, and all that jazz. So create those bottom edges. Go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, which is delete the bottom face, extrude a little bit inward, give myself a little indentation, and then scale some more. No one's going to see the bottom. No one's going to see the missing and gone. No one's going to see it. So let's go ahead and get rid of it. Let's go ahead and lift. Now the issue is if you are going to rotate this product on the ground, then yes, you will see that there's a hole there. But in this particular image, you will not see that bottom face. So I'll just get rid of it. All right, just scaling and kind of placing things to make the product look like an actual bottle. And then once you're done with that, you can kind of take a look at it, make sure that's looking nice. And then when you're ready, go ahead and place it on the base. Go ahead and open up the 2-panel views. Let's go to perspective view and scale it so it fits a little bit better into the camera. There's a little flexibility in placement. There's also a little flexibility when it comes to the camera. But right now I'm happy with the way the product is looking. Now the edge seemed a little bit collapsing. So let's go ahead and select those edges and do a Control B, which is go ahead and add a little bevel, just an extra edge to help it support it a little more. And then we have a cream. Let's take a look at a render. And there you go. You can kind of not see that flat surface. That's the lighting. The lighting is just a base right now. We'll work on lighting later on. But right now we just have a basic light from our physical sky. Just going to rotate it slightly just so we can see it a little bit better. Let's grab those vertices and merge. We're going to go to the modeling tab. Let's go to edit mesh merge, and those vertices will now be merged and you don't have a gap, which is good. All right, here we go. Let's center the pivot, freeze the transformation, delete the history. So we have a nice looking product design. Let's go ahead and save. It's important to save. Iterations, you definitely want to save iterations and get comfortable with it. Just in case your file gets corrupted, you will always have another file available. So you never know. You never know. I have lost files multiple times. Let's go ahead and create another cylinder. A cylinder is our best friend in this project. We are going to remove the cap like we always do. Let's zoom in here and we're going to go ahead and extrude inside. Let's pull it down a little bit. Like always, scale just a little bit. And I do want the base to have a bigger rounded edge than the other ones. This is going to be a bottle, like a bottle of lotion. So I want to make sure the bottom has a bigger curve. So you'll notice that I left the edges a lot more further apart. Let's go ahead and extrude. And this time I'm going to do the similar thing that I did to the base, which I want to make sure that I can create a nice rounded edge. So this is the bottle is going to be a cylinder and then it splits. And it starts getting rounded. So I'm going to add that edge, press the number 3 to see how the edge flow is going, and then continue on from there. Want to make sure it has a nice curve. I'm going to go ahead and extrude and lift. That's where the bottle's going to be. Again, I'm just basically creating the shape, extruding again, and deleting that top face. And that's going to give me a bottle. Now for this edge, I wanted to make sure that's a little thicker, so I'm going to go ahead and scale it. And again, sometimes I feel like I get more control if I just go ahead and add the edges myself. I'm going to go ahead and add an edge at the bottom, insert an edge and scale just to give it, again, the control and the curve flow that I want. And that's how I can get a bottle. Next is going to be the actual bottle top. So again, I'm going to change my subdivision to 0. I'm going to scale, and I'm also going to look at the top view because I want to make sure my placement is accurate. So let's go to the top view. I'm going to place it. I'm going to scale it, and that looks pretty good. So it's going to be a little harder to grab, but go ahead and grab that bottom face. You're going to extrude inward and scale, and then you don't see it, but just go ahead and delete it because we don't need that geometry there. Now I'm going to need some edges, so let's double click to a Control B, which is bevel. Give yourself some segments. Let's go ahead and grab the top face, extrude, and I'm going to make a little indentation here and lift. Then I'm going to extrude again, scale in, and then extrude again and lift. So that's how we can quickly get these edges. Let's go ahead and grab that face, extrude, bring it in, click that bevel, increase the segment, reduce the fractions, and now we have this piece. And you're welcome to delete it because there is going to be another piece above that. I want to make sure my edges are nice and firm. Grab those edges, double click, shift, double click, and then do a Control B and add a segment, reduce the fraction. I love bevel. It's great. Press the number 3 and there we go. I'm not too convinced at the base. I feel like the bevel didn't work as well as it should have. I didn't notice it. So let's go ahead and just fix it ourselves. Nothing is set in stone when it comes to 3D. You can always add your own bevel. I used to do those all the time before the bevel tool was created. I love the bevel tool because I used to have to do it manually myself. So this is great. I will take it. Next is going to create that top portion of the bottle top that you actually press down and where the liquid comes out. Change the subdivision axis to 12 and the subdivision cap to 0. We're going to look at the top view in wireframe mode and make sure that everything fits accordingly. Next, I'm going to scale it a little bit just to make sure it's nice and thin, just like a real bottle. Then I'm going to select some faces. Then I'm going to extrude, and you're going to see that when I press W, I really can't move it. So I can either click on the letter D and move that pivot point, right? And you can see that I grabbed too many faces and it's looking a little funky. Or an easier way to do it is to actually grab faces that are facing an axis. So in this case, I want to grab Z. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and look at it the side view, select the faces on that perspective, and then select a couple more. And then when I extrude and press W, you'll see that now it actually works really well. I don't have to fight it. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude outward. I'm going to scale it in, making sure that everything's looking good. I'm going to flatten it a little bit as well, the front, and then I'm also going to bring it up a little bit. Then I'm going to extrude again and just basically move it down again to give it that nice curvature that bottle tops have. It's actually pretty interesting to look at these things. I never really looked at it that closely, and when you start modeling it, you start realizing, wow, this thing has a lot of details I didn't notice before. It also has an indentation for your finger, so I'm going to grab that cylinder face and go ahead and extrude slightly inward, and then extrude again and bring it down so I can get that little press where your finger goes. Now that I have the basic shape, let's go ahead and select those front faces and make sure you don't select anything else. Extrude inward, and then you're going to extrude, or you're going to scale inward and then extrude and move it back, and then delete those faces because again, the chances of anyone see it's going to be really small. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze those a little bit, and now you can see that I'm starting to get that shape. Now it does need some beveling, but the basic shape is there, which is really important before you start beveling. Now something happened there. I scaled it and it went a little funky, but that's okay. It's an easy fix. You can just go to your edges. 3D is a complicated program, so sometimes you just have to fix it. And this one was really easy to fix, so I'll take it. Next, let's go ahead and extrude inward and get rid of that angon by deleting it. You can't see it, but I got rid of it. All right, next is the actual angon on the top, which I cannot get rid of. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the bottle, which is create quads. So using the multi-cut tool, I'm going to go from one vertex and then cross it, go to the other vertex, and then press enter. I'm going to do that multiple times so that I can get that nice quad shapes. There it is. Awesome. I'm going to go to edges, double click, double click, double click, double click. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and select some edges. Keep selecting those edges. The purpose of selecting the edges is to make sure that we get a nice beveled edge and that we don't get any n-gons. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the edges that's going to help create that edge flow. I'm going to go ahead and click on Control B. And you'll notice that I deselected an edge and it doesn't look so hot. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have deselected that edge, right? So we're getting some n-gons, we're getting some funky pulling. So I'm going to go ahead and undo and select those edges right there across the way. So that's going to help create that nice edge flow. There we go. Much better, less pinching. It's the way I want to go. And now when I press the number 3, you can see how clean that surface looks. Look at that beautiful edging. Now again, you can always go to the inputs and make some changes. I wouldn't recommend to go down in history and change it, but if you just created that bevel, take a look at the inputs. You still have some options. Now it's not making too much of a dramatic change in that one, but you can always go back. Now that I have this, let's go ahead and call this bottle top 2. Then I'm going to group it, Control G, and then center that pivot so that instead of selecting the 3 pieces, I can just select the group. I move the pivot down by clicking on the letter D and then moving it down. Now I'm going to place it into the environment. Take a look at the render cam and see how everything is looking. So there goes all my models. I basically have everything ready, and now it's about the scale and making sure that everything looks good. So placing it on here, making sure it looks really nice. I can see all my 3 products there for my skincare product design. And now I have the floor, the wall, the stands, three types of lotion. And then now I'm just going to be nudging a little bit to make sure everything's looking really nice. It's really important to make sure that you select the group, not just one product. And it just makes it a lot easier to place. Let's take a look at the render, and there we have it. We now have 3 products with a render. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it just a little bit to make sure that the bottle looks as nice as possible. Really show off that model. And there we go. What do you guys think? Do you like it? That is how you can create product designs in Maya. The next step is going to be UV mapping it. Then we're going to texture it. And then we are going to render it beautifully. Let's go ahead and grab that sky dome, increase that intensity to 1.5 so we can see it a little bit better. And there you go. A beautiful product design ready for texturing. Hopefully you liked this video and you learned a thing or two. If you did, please like and subscribe. That is your message to me, letting me know that you like this content and that you want to see more. If you want to follow along, you are more than welcome to take a look at academicphoenixplus.com. There you can download these files to follow along in the next video tutorial, which is to actually UV map it and texture it. Don't forget to share my videos. If you feel like there's a 3D artist that would like to learn how to create product design, please share my videos. That would be amazing. And that would help me a great deal. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Keep creating, and I will see you next time when we start UV mapping this product design.